So before I tell this story, I checked in with my daughter to make sure this was okay, because this is partly her story as well. And I wanted to honor her in all of this. So here's what happened. After we went to vote earlier this morning, we stopped by Starbucks and we thought we'd pick up some lunch because, you know, voting is all about eating and having special sparkly drinks. And so my husband and I said we wanted one thing, and the kids wanted something different. My youngest son asked my daughter, like, hey, let's get a pizza together. Because I told the kids they had to pay for their own food. Those little boogers make money. I don't have to pay for all their extras. And so my son, the Crown Prince, asked my daughter, he goes, hey, you want a pizza? Let's get a pizza. So she said, yes, pizza. So we're driving to go get the pizza. And she goes, I want mushrooms. And I said, well, sweetie, you guys were just going to get a hot and ready. You weren't really going to get, like, you weren't ordering a full pizza. That's what cut the price in half, was that you were getting a pizza, just you were sharing a pizza. And the only ingredient y'all can agree on is pepperoni. Anywho, so I could hear the doubt in her voice. And I'm going to be honest, because I deal with my own anxiety and my own shit. Sometimes my kids voicing their stuff sets off my triggers. If you join the No More Trauma Summit with August Crenshaw this December, I talk about where some of that comes from. But it sometimes sets off my own sets of triggers, because I knew she was doubting, and I have this innate fear that if she can't always be clear, that someone is going to take advantage of her. And so I tend to be harder on her when I actually need to be easier on her, because her diagnoses make it to where me being harder on her only exasperates any of the tics or issues that she has. It doesn't take them away. It makes them actually worse. Anywho, she goes, well, can I get mushrooms? I go, well, sweetie, you know, no, you guys were going to Little Caesars. We're going to get a hot and ready, and we would have had to order a pizza. And so we're just going to pick one up on the way. And I could just really hear, like, I could hear her thinking and kind of like mumbling some things in the background. I said, hold on, do you even want pizza? And so she pauses and she goes, no, I really don't want pizza. I want a sandwich. Now, in this moment is where I did not show up as a fully loving and supportive mother. I was instantly annoyed. I was annoyed because now we got to stop at one more place. And if you would have said you wanted a sandwich beforehand, we could have made different moves. But I'm not beating me up and I'm not beating her up. This is a total learning lesson. So anywho, I don't want to drag the story out. Okay. So fast forward, we get to, thankfully, the pizza place and the sandwich place are like 2 doors down from each other. So it wasn't like a big thing, but I'm still stuck and annoyed because I had to step outside of what my plan was in my head to accommodate. In my head, it was to accommodate her. So we get into the sandwich place. And first of all, there was like a limit to how many people could go into the store, but they didn't have the limit on the fucking door. And so we would go in and they would go, no, you have to go out. And then so we went in again. And finally, after like our second or third time, like going in after people were let out, she goes, no, our limit for the store is 5 people. And I'm like, would have been nice to know it was 5 people the first time I came in. But so I'm already irritated and on edge. And she's kind of on edge because she feels some sort of way about changing her mind. Fast forward, we get into there. I am still not being my best self. I am still not being patient and slowing down. And it's like a train wreck. I can see myself making bad parenting choices like in slow motion, but at this point, I can't fucking stop. So we get home and like, you know, that moment after you do something really fucked up as a parent and you try to figure out how you can resolve this so your child is not seemingly scarred for life. And so I begin to think of ways that she and I can have these conversations and different ways that I can show up in different ways that she can use her voice. And so that's what I did is I called her up and I said, well, let's talk about what happened today. Let's have a discussion. Now, your child may or may not be at that point, but this is still a good thing because you can still reach out to that child to see like exactly what's going on and how things worked out for them. And so I said, well, what happened today? I said, how did this leave you feeling? And she was like, well, this left me feeling confused. Like I felt confused about what to do, and you weren't patient. And so I was trying to catch up with what you were saying. And it was really hard because we have these masks on and I couldn't hear you. And part of me felt like really proud that she was using her voice and letting me know that I was not showing up as my best self. And the other part of me felt like crap because like I kind of know these things, but yet I wasn't being patient, compassionate, or graceful in this situation. And so she and I had a conversation for about 5 or 10 minutes about the events, how she perceived them. I did not stop her. I did not change her narrative. I let her say what she wanted to say in the safe space. Like normally there's a space in my room that's a safe space where the kids can say anything. And we are not allowed to react. We are only allowed to support them where they need to be supported at and shut up. That's pretty much it. And so she was in that space where she was allowed to tell me how this made her feel, how my reaction to things made her feel. And so I asked her for feedback. I said, well, what do you think mommy can do better in the future to not show up that way? Because that really sucked. She said, yeah, it did. And she gave me feedback. Be more patient. Breathe, mommy. It was another one she gave me. But those were be patient and breathe. And so then I asked her, I said, well, what do you think that you could have done to lessen the impact of this experience? And, she said, I could have relaxed. I could have asked questions. And it was something else that she said, but I had her do both. That experience totally flipped the script of the earlier experience. And then I had her do some EFT tapping around that experience and how it made her feel. So that it wouldn't stick, so that it wouldn't be, God, I wish we had EFT tapping when I was a younger parent, or I knew about it anyways. But so that it wouldn't stick. And so that she could truly move on from this situation without it being like a total notch in the trauma belt. But most definitely, I fueled her anxiety. And sometimes as parents of children with special needs, we know that our kids take longer to do stuff, or we know that sometimes they might need a little bit more support, and we have our own shit, and sometimes we drag it into them, exasperating the situation and making it worse than what it could actually be if we just took a beat and calmed down. This is not from a space of judgment or beating you down or berating you, because I just did the same thing. It's something that we have to work through and do, because we're not always going to be the picture perfect parent that's always patient and loving and kind and open and generous. But you have to be in a space to be willing to have these conversations with your kids. Even when MJ was alive and he was not all the way verbal, but he had a space of understanding. Whenever I would have a parenting F up with him, I would have a conversation with him. Even though he wasn't going to give me the responses that would have necessarily seemed like they were coherent or whatever, but I would still have the conversation with him like, hey, mommy didn't show up as her best self. Please forgive me. This was not the best thing for me to do. I love you, and this is not how I want to show up with you. Because even though they may not be able to verbalize it, they totally understand from an emotional and from a feeling standpoint when you're coming to them to, either apologize or get their point of view. And even I would ask him, as I would do things, what do you think mommy can do better next time? And I pretty much already knew the answer, even though he wasn't completely verbal. I pretty much already knew the answer. You know the answer on how you can show up better next time with your kid. They don't necessarily need to respond, but you always want to give them that space. If they can, you want to give them that space to respond to you and say, I want you to show up this way, because it'll let you know how you can support them to be, I don't want to say better humans, but more complete or more engaged humans, whatever. So I hope this was helpful. This was just like a really quick blurb that I was thinking about as she and I are about to run out for a few moments and grab some things, but it shifts our relationship. Because like now, like when I had this conversation with her and I gave her that space, you could just tell the anxiety just went versus like her being afraid to be around me, because that freaks them out when I'm freaking out. Like it really does. So give yourself some grace, mama. Have those conversations with your kids, whether they are verbal or not, whether their level of understanding is where you need it to be or not. Have the conversations, open up the door, let down your guard, show your child that you are a human that makes mistakes, and, you know, and it releases the shame off of it that we feel when we do. I jokingly call it fucked up parenting. When we do something that we know can possibly send our child to therapy later in life, we tend to ignore it and like just hope it goes away. And we say, here, you want some cake? Ooh, let's go get some ice cream, to try to brush over the thing that happened, when actually there needs to be a conversation to remove the guilt, the shame, the trauma. And trauma isn't always something that's like, but still some form of childhood trauma, to help remove some of those pieces, to put your child's self-esteem and self-confidence back intact. And it strengthens your relationship. These are tools that I have learned over years and years of my own training and working with my therapist, and, working in different modalities to help me to be able to be open enough and comfortable enough to going to my kids to do that. So I hope this was helpful. If it is, shoot me thumbs up or whatever below. If it isn't, or you have any comments, questions, or ahas or whatever, pop them down in the comment section below, or share with a mom friend who has a child with special needs and they're not sure on how to communicate or how to make things better with that relationship. It's not always easy. It's already not easy as a parent to do this part. But when you have a child that might have some challenges, it tends to make the job a bit more interesting, doesn't it? So I will talk to you all later. Remember, love yourself, love your family, and love your business. If you need any help in this area, either pop it down in the comments below or shoot me an inbox. I'll be glad to help support you in any way that I can, either with me or the multitude of resources that I am privy to. So I love you all. Have a great day. I'm about to go hang out with my kids again, and I'll talk to you later.